Hello fellow gamers, TFA Gaming here and welcome to Gran Turismo 7. Today we are racing in round 3 of the Manufacturers Cup at Deep Forest Raceway in GT3 cars. For this season I chose Porsche as my manufacturer. Qualifying went really well for me. I'd only done a few practice laps before the race and they were pretty consistent, and my qualifying lap was my fastest lap I'd done so far. I qualified second with a time of 1:27.293, which is nearly 6 tenths behind the leader. I was still really pleased with this time though. So the strategy for this race was really interesting. You had to pit at least once and you had to use the soft and the medium tyre, although you could probably do the whole race in the medium tyre if you didn't have to pit. The general strategy seemed to be about 12 laps on the soft tyre and the remaining 8 on the medium tyre, and try to minimise the time you spent on the slower tyre. No fuel saving needed for this one, so you could leave it in fuel mix 1 the whole race. Now, Deep Forest Raceway is a 2.2 mile long track that combines a very long back straight, great for slipstreaming, with some very tight and twisty infield sections. I really enjoy driving this track, especially with GT3 cars. I don't really have a favourite track or car really, but I'll definitely say this combination rates up there at the top for me. But feel free to let me know in the comments below if you agree. I'd love to hear about other tracks and car combinations that you guys enjoy, and maybe I'll check them out in a future video. So I started the race pretty well here. I managed to pull a gap from the car behind, but the Genesis in front was a really fast driver and was already nearly 2 seconds ahead by the back straight. Here we have the consistent theme of this race, track limit penalties. I really struggled with this corner. I don't know what it is, but I just kept going over the track limits, lap after lap. So as we come to the end of the back straight here, I've got a penalty, and then I came in like a wrecking ball. The McLaren behind hits and sends me wide. Now, I'm not sure if they just misjudged the braking zone or if I was a bit cautious on the brakes, but we made contact anyway. Now, to be fair, they do hold back and don't go past, but I do lose a spot to the Ferrari and now I have damage. Just remember this name for later in the race. Not the start I was hoping for, but nevertheless, we carry on and see what happens with the rest of the race. It's a long 20-lap race and lots can happen. I spent the rest of lap 2 trying to put as much distance between me and the McLaren behind so I didn't lose too much time with the penalty. Luckily with this track, the penalty line is quite close to the braking zone, so you really don't lose too much time with it. You can see the cars behind had some sort of incident. As I hit the braking zone, the gap behind is nearly 3 seconds. Starting lap 3, the Ferrari in front goes off. Not entirely sure what happened, whether they just made a mistake or just forgot to brake. And here we are, back to where we started the race, in second position, albeit 4 seconds behind the leader. Now, I wanted to try and settle down and get into a rhythm, but just coming out from the hairpin, I ran a little bit wide and clipped the wall, and of course, I get a track limit penalty. Very frustrating, but ultimately my mistake. Luckily, there was still enough of a gap behind to make it so that I don't lose a place, and actually getting on the Ferrari behind, so maybe they also had an issue or a penalty. Moving ahead here to lap 6, where I set my best lap of the race. Coming down the main straight, braking just before the 50 board, probably about 75 metres out and into second gear. Let the car roll and rotate mid-corner before putting the power down. Then up into corners 2, 3 and 4. When you got this right, it was brilliant. You could really carry some speed. You want to use as much curb as possible, and I found just lifting off the throttle was enough to rotate the car. I found if you braked, it really unsettled the car through this bit. Through the tunnel here, and then as close to the inside as you can. I wasn't very close on this occasion. Braking just at the top of the hill, just dab the brakes and then let the car roll through before accelerating again. This back straight was crucial to your lap. If you got it wrong, you could lose so much time with the cars around you. You can use as much of the curb as you want on the exit, but as I had already had a time penalty here, I played it safe. As you can see from this split, I was actually up on the fastest lap of the race, but this big braking zone was my Achilles heel. I thought I had it sorted, braking just after the 100 board, but so many cars, as you will see later, gained so much time on me here. Keeping it close to the apex and then straightening off the exit to minimise wheel spin and over the line for a 1:27.731, which was great for me, but it means I lost nearly half a second in the last sector. The next few laps were really about getting as far ahead of third place as I could. A win for me was never on at this point. The leader was very clearly a faster driver, so second was my goal. My biggest issue, not only on this track, but in general, was consistency. As you can see, my lap times really vary from a decent 1:27.7 to a poor 1:28.6. That's nearly a second different on these tracks. If you can put in a couple of good, consistent laps, you'll pretty much catch anyone. Moving forward to lap 10, my tyres are really done. I really hadn't done the best job at managing my tyres. The strategy was 12 on the soft and 8 on the medium, and I'd only done 10 on the soft. But I'm still learning, so it is what it is. Coming out the pits is where my race really started to unravel. My fault and frustrating, I slightly cut the end of the pit lane and got a 3-second penalty. And this is the moment that I really think started the end of my race. The unravelling of all unravellings. So I've served my penalty here, and everyone in front of me has now gone into the pits. As we go over the line, second place comes out 3 seconds ahead. I would have been right there in prime place to battle for second, but I'm not because I got a 3-second penalty. But there's no time to dwell, it's eyes forward, I've got my target, and I now need to catch up. There's a good gap behind and there's no pressure. No need to push too hard and get a penalty. This really is my race to lose now. As we move forward to lap 15 here, I've had a few good consistent laps about a 1:28. I actually started to catch the fellow Brit in front, with the gap now down to about 2.5 seconds. I also gained on the leader. The gap was about 13 seconds a few laps ago, and now it's 11.5. So definitely making some progress. Just trying to be smooth and not get any more penalties. As I mentioned before, my biggest issue was consistency. Lap 14 was a 1:27.8, and lap 13 was a 1:28.4. And as you can see, John B did the fastest lap of a 1:27.0. That's nearly a second faster than me, so I knew if I made a mistake or didn't pick up the pace, it would be with me in less than 3 laps. Joining the main straight, again, making a mistake. I went a pix over the white line and boom, a penalty. Penalty number 4. So now I knew I'd blown any chance at second place. It was all about keeping the last podium position. The gap behind is still about 3.5 seconds. Despite the fastest lap, the car behind is not really gaining. Not sure what I was doing here on lap 16, I managed to clip the inside of the hairpin, losing momentum and putting dirt on my tyres. By the time I got to the braking zone and had my penalty, the gap was down to 2.2 seconds. I'd lost nearly 1.5 seconds just on this lap. The next few corners were just a disaster for me. I braked too early into the first corner, and then through this chicane, I got it wrong. I was way too fast in, went wide, and had to brake even more, and it's just lost me time. Had a bit of oversteer coming onto the back straight, and now my near 4-second gap 2 laps later was 0.8. And then into the hairpin, I went wide, it was just a lap to forget. Now I was in trouble. I had 2 laps to defend from a car who was clearly faster than me. I'm not sure at this point if there's even any point in trying to fight them, but let's see what we can do. I go defensive here into the first corner, and John B does an incredible job of holding it around the outside. I was sure they were going to try and switcheroo me, but they didn't. Completely outplayed me here. So up alongside each other, I knew I'd lost this corner, so I started to back out. And I'm not really sure what happens here. I gave plenty of space, and as you can see here, they're actually in front, and the back end sets out the McLaren, and they go off and hit me. And that's massive damage for both of us. Let's see what happened there. If you remember, this was the car that crashed into us at the start of the race at the hairpin. Now, I don't think this was intentional, it was just close racing. It's just frustrating, that's all. I will admit that I ended up taking the racing line. Had I actually backed out properly, I probably wouldn't have had a crash. Now, I would love to say that's where it ends, but it doesn't. I make another mistake. Dirty tyres, frustrated, lost my podium to the Ferrari, and I spin coming out of the tunnel. I do a nice 360 no-scope and carry on, but now I'm under pressure from the NSX in 5th. Starting lap 19 here is where my race completely comes to an end. I'm not sure what I did to the guy behind because he enacts some sort of weird revenge on me and just completely takes me out. I must have done something to me in the past life because coming into this corner, they just murder me. As you can see from the replay here, they just simply crash into me. Just really, really frustrating. And that pretty much sums up my race. You know, these things always happen in open lobbies. You can accept that things happen sometimes, like the first crash. It was just a mistake. We aren't professional racing drivers, and it happens. That's fine. I only lost 1 place, and I could carry on. But the second one really frustrates me. It ruins the fun for everyone. I don't mind finishing 7th if I make a mistake and go off. That's on me. But it's just rubbish when someone takes you out for seemingly no reason. As we come to the end of the race here, I actually end up finishing 6th, as the car in second place either didn't pit or didn't change tyres or something, as they got a 1 minute penalty. So started second, finished 6th. It's not the worst, but it could definitely have been a better race. It was definitely the race of what could have been. I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.